So, hey everyone, it's usually Friday. This is on a Thursday. And it's usually a live show. In this case, it is not because something's not cooperating with me on my end. But anyway, happy weekend, guys. I'm joined by the one and only Mike D. Crypto. How's it going, man?
Doing good. How are you?
Doing pretty well. Other than annoying show hiccups and things like that are always come and go. Yeah, life life is pretty good these days. Yeah, so I would just remind everyone to obviously like, comment, share, subscribe, all the other good stuff. I would say join the live chat and stuff, but unfortunately, this is a live chat free zone today because it's not live, it's dead, or rather, pre-recorded. But we're going to be doing the usual stuff, going over the usual news stuff, as well as talking about WaxDAO, which is something I'm pretty looking forward to talking about. So let's just go start. Number one is Coinbase. So I'll just gonna read a little bit of what Brian Armstrong, Coinbase CEO and founder, said. He says, starting today, Coinbase will begin integrating our crypto policy efforts right into our app. These will help our 103 million verified users get educated on the crypto positions held by political leaders where they live. And so, for example, U.S. leaders can see crypto sentiment scores from members of Congress based on publicly available statements they've made. They can also register to vote and find out about local town hall events. So, what's your hot take on this 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 interesting development?
So yeah, I guess I'm a little bit split on that. On one hand, like it is nice to know what the sentiment is where you go. Like I moved to Florida for whatever to get
Mm-hmm.
away from New York. We don't need to get into it and stuff, but
Yeah.
it's good to know like what the situation is in your landscape that you're going to be living in. But at the same time, and maybe I'm less optimistic than some people on this, but I don't really think these people's opinions matter that much. I think it's
Yeah.
just kind of reinforcing that they do matter. When I don't really care what some senator has to say about crypto. I'm going to do what I want to do either way. So
Yeah, it's an interesting balance on that point where mostly, I mean, I used to do stuff in politics in a previous life, and then since I've been in crypto in the last, I guess, 9 years or so, it's mostly to not have to care about that. I mostly don't want to deal with that, and most of the crypto space is just working on and just trying to do better and build something awesome, but just without having to deal with this. But every once in a while, like we've noticed this year in particular, we had the tornado cash sanctions, which are pretty crazy, and then we had a whole bunch of statements and attempts to regulate and things like that by the U.S. federal government in particular, and various other governments have done stuff like that as well. And usually the crypto space has just been like working anyway, and then every once in a while saying some strongly worded statements on Twitter. And of course, Coin Center has always been there doing some advocacy work and stuff in Washington. But this is kind of an unprecedented move. I guess it's just like a maybe, oh, we need to start pushing back kind of a thing.
yeah, I mean, strictly for information purposes, I guess it's cool, but I wouldn't look at it as anything more than that, in my opinion,
Hmm.
as a user of the platform. I mean,
Yeah, it's pretty crazy as well. One thing that I maybe someone with more historical context could kind of chime in on that, but like it also seems to be sort of unprecedented as far as a consumer facing app or some kind of a company going in some ways explicitly political inside like their end user product as far as this is concerned. I mean, there's always, it seems like the gentleman's agreement sort of has been, if you're a company, if you're whatever, your business, you can donate to political campaigns or donate to lobbying efforts behind the scenes, that kind of stuff. But you're supposed to just be sitting there being all neutral. And even if some laws could have negatively affect your business, you're not supposed to say anything about it. You're supposed to kind of quietly support proxies to go do it for you. And this is kind of a very different thing where you have a company that just coming out and saying, hey, all 100 million plus of our users, this is what people think about crypto. Do as, just kind of like almost trying to mobilize their entire user base for political advocacy. Now, not a right versus left, not like a expansive political platform, but just on the issue of crypto, which affects the business. So I don't know. I don't know if that's ever happened before.
Yeah, I find it a bit strange. I mean, on one hand, you obviously have to like follow the rules where you live, I guess. If you're
Mm-hmm.
doing business, if wherever they're located, they have to follow the laws there. But it's a bit different to put this right in everybody's face and basically say like, you have to do what these people say. Like this is what so and so thinks in this area. No, go and vote.
Yeah, yeah. It's kind of it's an interesting tactic. I mean, I don't know if it's going to end up just being annoying for crypto because it gets people involved in politics where they used to just be involved in building and growing the ecosystem. It could be that. It could also be this finally puts crypto on the map as far as a political force to be reckoned with, and as a result, we know we're not going to see people getting in our way anymore, trying to make the basic stuff that we do illegal anymore. So I don't really know which way it's going to go. It's a very bold move though, especially for such a large and usually kind of risk averse corporation. Coinbase has played it safe for a while.
Yeah, I wonder if this is like an attempt to get their users to lean in a certain direction,
Mm-hmm.
which would help their business out based on what gets voted for, or if it's just meant to be like we're playing nice. I don't really know.
Yeah, almost seems more like a we're playing dirty kind of, and I can't wait to see what the. I mean, just from a purely just from a curiosity perspective, I can't wait to see what the reaction is or backlash or whatever you want to call from the political side of things. Are they going to be like, oh, megacorps trying to control things like that, or is it going to be something like that, or is it going to? I don't know. It's just very, it's just like crypto coming out, just like the NFT explosion, the DeFi world. A lot of that stuff is just like this has never happened before, and I'm just interested in seeing where it goes without knowing which way it's going to go.
Yeah, I know we're definitely going to see some on both sides, but I'm also curious how it plays out. It happens every time there's some kind of legislation or anything. There's always one group of people shouting that it's bad, and the other group is like, "Well, this is good for adoption because it's going to help it
Mm-hmm.
become more mainstream." It's kind of a double-edged sword. I think we'll end up seeing. I shouldn't say I think we'll end up seeing. I hope we'll end up seeing at some point more of a shift towards privacy. I'm not so optimistic on the general population as far as that goes, though. I
Yeah.
think people just don't really care, and they'd rather just be told what to do for the most part.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's probably true. I kind of have an open prediction. I just thought about it one day and I tweeted out and pinned the tweet just so people can yell at me if I end up being wrong. But I kind of predict in the next couple of years, like 2 to 3 years, is going to be the early majority adoption phase, where you start to see a bunch of people using crypto. Not like everyone, but maybe if you're sitting in the coffee shop or whatever, maybe like 5% of the people coming in will be like trying to pay with crypto, and just so into where you have a lot of people able to like live on it completely if they want to. It's not going to be most people, but a few will. And I also think that the privacy and security, all these kinds of like, what do they call it? These elephant in the room topics won't really kick in until like the next cycle after that, like towards like 2028 or so. So, that's my open prediction. I'm open to being wrong about it, and I guess we'll see.
Well, I think I would hope that it takes that long for those things to become an issue, I guess, because it seems
Hmm.
like they're trying to take control of things. I mean, I think they're offering like $1 million now to crack Monero or something like that. So I'll tell you that that's probably
Hmm.
the technology that we need the most, if that's the one they're the most afraid of.
You're the one they're the most public about being afraid of, at least.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
it's levels of privacy are also something very different because, like, as anyone who's used anything in like the NFT space knows, The privacy on most NFT chains or most, DeFi chains or whatever is almost non-existent. Like if you have your Ethereum address or your Wax address or whatever, and someone puts that into a block explorer, they see all the money you have there, and they see all the NFTs you have, which right now are little like collectible type things a lot of times, but could very soon be a lot of things like your the title to your car, so they know what car you drive, and like your house. And so, and that it's kind of crazy. I mean, the Bitcoin level of privacy doesn't it's not enough, but it also isn't as scary because you get a new address every time, and if someone wants to follow your funds, see how much you have, they have to do some sort of a chain analysis thing. They have to know what they're doing to kind of look that up. Whereas if it's just like the one address and then one username, and everyone has their whatever .eth domain in their Twitter bio, and then you can just look it up and see if they're worth robbing or not. It's just that's kind of crazy. It's crazy it's gotten this far this way, and I hope that ends up changing soon. But my prediction is it won't become universally a problem until like 2028, to where people around then, to when people have to, like, if your chain doesn't offer privacy, you're not going to succeed.
Yeah, I'm also curious to see where things go with that, as far as like, because I mentioned Monero, but I don't really lean either way, but I'm not sure if Monero will be the thing, or if there's just going to be like a privacy layer that gets added to other chains. Or I'm kind of curious how that plays out, or if there's like a few chains and each one of them has their own privacy thing on it.
Mm-hmm.
You have any thoughts on that? Or
Thinking. So the thing is, I think that privacy as a feature is going to become like a standard thing. Kind of like you're not going to sell a house that doesn't have locking doors. And so the question is, like, what levels are enough and in what cases? I don't think that the always on part is going to end up working out, just because of the areas where it's useful to be super transparent. Like, so for example, I've run some like donation or public fund sort of based stuff, and actually turned off like change addresses. Where was I about the transparency, right? About keeping transparency in some funds being a useful tool. And so the always on, maybe not. The thing is, like, there's so many different privacy methods out there. There's like the good old coin join method, where you just sort of mix your funds if you want it, and then everyone can see where it go. Like, everyone can see what you're receiving, but they can't see where it came from. And so that's some basic level of privacy, keeps you from getting kind of stalked. But it's a little, as someone who uses this a lot in different chains, it's a pain in the butt. It's kind of annoying to have to pre-mix, and then it takes a while. And if you end up having high throughput chains or whatever, like, you need a high throughput to be able to do this. And then on the other side, you got like Mimblewimble and stuff, which is interesting, but it's also, you have to be always on. You have to be connected. You and the sender and the recipient have to be connected at the same time to do it. And it's kind of not super strong. And then you have obviously the Monero like ring signature approach with confidential transactions on the other side, like stealth addresses, which is pretty simple and robust and kind of works. But there's been a long history of like exploits with that keep getting fixed, but then there's others, and I don't exactly know how that's going to work super long term. Then you have like the two kind of at the top of the heap sort of tend to be like zero coin, like what or zero cash, like what Zcash uses,
ZK
as well.
rollups.
Yeah, that stuff, as well as Firo has something called Lelantis, which you burn your coins, you like destroy them, and then you remint and the amount of money in the burn state, like the amounts don't necessarily match, so you burn like 100 coins, and then you remint like 4, and then maybe 20, and then whatever, so you just get fresh historyless coins every single time. And I don't, we get really technical at that point, so I'm not exactly an expert to that level, but I'm wondering what will start to shake out. I'm pretty sure we'll see some sort of like standard issue, some standard practices kind of come together about this is the way most coins work. It'll probably be like one level of default but good privacy. And then there'll be like a super kind of like your incognito browser tab, like your or using Tor or something much more robust for like people who do that. And then there'll be like a super transparent option probably. So I don't know what that's going to look like, but whatever.
Yeah, I think I would agree on most of that myself. It's definitely not good to have it on all the time. There are plenty of reasons you'd want to shut off privacy. And then there's stuff you'd want to show to, like, you wouldn't want your friends to be able to necessarily just look you up and see, but maybe the government should be able to see if you're like one of those people that believes in that sort of thing, I guess. And
Yeah.
yeah, pretty much everything you just said, I agree with.
Yeah. And the big thing that I have to sort of personally wrap my head around, but also I think that the space has to find a good way of dealing with is there's always like the inflation bug possibility, which means that you could have a bug in the code which produces infinite coins or a whole bunch beyond whatever supply. But if they're encrypted or otherwise you can't analyze a blockchain, you don't know, what the ultimate supply is. And so, for example, I'm pretty sure Zcash had an inflation bug that they quickly found out, like they found out and then fixed. And I'm pretty sure they're pretty sure that no one exploited it, but it was still for a time you could have potentially minted a whole bunch of Zcash and then no one would even know to this day. And so that's something I don't know how they're going to deal with that kind of thing on like the encrypted privacy front, but I hope they do.
Yeah, that's a bit tough to try and figure out the supply and demand of a token when you don't know what the supply is going to be.
Yeah, it is pretty crazy. Let's talk about this Do Kwon thing because I'm not gonna get out of the way. I'm not big. I've kind of been following the Terra situation. I had a little bit of Terra, not very much, so I don't really care for whatever I lost. I was just trying to try it out, and then I just remember I was surprised at just how much of the crypto space it tanked when Terra tanked, and then I've been sort of following. There's this guy Fat Man Terra on Twitter, who's like sort of a whistleblower, I guess. He's like one of the Terra Luna community members who has just been really looking into all this stuff very deeply and kind of been acting as like a whistleblower in a lot of ways. And so I kind of follow that, but I haven't really followed the latest saga. But this one anyway. South Korea issues arrest warrant for Terra founder Do Kwon. A court located in Seoul, South Korea, issued a warrant for the arrest of Do Kwon and 5 other people who are currently in Singapore. And supposedly, according to the prosecutor's office in South Korea, the Terra's founder is facing allegations of violating the country's capital markets laws. And yeah, so what's your hot take on this thing?
Yeah, I'm not sure I have much of a take on this. I haven't followed it at all, to be honest. I just kind of get tunnel vision and work and don't really pay attention to what's going on. But
Yeah,
so is this guy arrested, or there's just a warrant for his arrest right now?
there's just a
warrant.
warrant. He's a Korean fellow who's been, as far as I know, operating out of Singapore lately. And yeah,
So that no one knows where he actually is, I guess. He's just kind of.
yeah, it's kind of on the lam. It's kind of crazy how there's crypto's kind of interesting where you have a lot of traditional finance entities and things where you have like someone who runs a bank or a large corporation or things like that, and those people end up they can end up in trouble for whatever happens, like if they do nefarious dealings and things. Whereas with crypto, there's this sort of decentralization kind of smokescreen where people assume that like, well, it's like buyer beware if you want to use this. And this might start to turn things a little bit to more between those two things where a lot of it's buyer beware. But if you're saying, oh, it's just a decentralized thing, buyer beware, but it's really one guy running a company that issues things and makes promises as far as like what they're going to do, that he bears some kind of personal legal responsibility for that. And so it's going to be interesting to see where that kind of shakes out in between.
Yeah, I think these type of situations in crypto too really kind of they put a lot of people's principles to the test
Mm-hmm.
because it's easy to say that you don't think the government should be stepping in for anything. Basically, you want to be able to do what you want to do, and then at
Mm-hmm.
the same time, something like this happens, and if you say, oh no, he shouldn't be, nobody should arrest him, it's your fault. Well, then you're kind of a piece of crap, right? So it's like
Mm-hmm.
it really it puts you in a dilemma. I guess it's tough to make. I mean, I definitely think if this guy did all this stuff, that he should face some kind of penalty. I guess I'm
Yeah.
just I'm not necessarily speaking about my own values. I just mean in general.
Yeah. I mean, as far as at some point, there's going to have to be some sort of a consensus, as it were, on who's responsible for what. And now, so for example, whatever Bitcoin does, Satoshi's long gone. I mean, unless you think it's Craig Wright, in which case he's still long gone from Bitcoin, from BTC. And you have Bitcoin core developers that continue to kind of improve and build on the code, but it's kind of a more looser coalition of people. And if you use Bitcoin and the price crashes, they're not really. It's easy to be like buyer beware. It's just open source software. Do as you will. But then we start to get into like Ethereum. Okay, well, Ethereum also allegedly decentralized, but does have a founder who's basically what Vitalik says kind of goes. I mean, I can't imagine if he said no, Ethereum should never move to proof of stake. If he changed his mind, and then the merge just like didn't get called off in some way, shape, or form because of that. I mean, it's not that simple, but the amount of sway he has. And there was an ICO. There was a founding group of people who issued and sold tokens, and yeah, they kind of were the founders or creators. And then you have things like DAOs, where certain people end up leading aspects of the project, but they're kind of elected by a decentralized board of anyone who owns the token or anyone who wants to participate. And so it's like, well, at what point? So if you have a DAO, like say you got like a Dash or a Decred or just any of these others, and the price crashes for whatever reason, like are the people that the DAO elected to represent it kind of, are they legally liable, or is it a buyer beware? There's going to be some interesting ethical kind of a societal territory we end up running into with all this.
Yeah, DAOs in general, I don't think are fully where they need to be. This is a conversation that comes up a lot because
Mm-hmm.
there's something that I'm actually working on is DAOs for Wax DAO. But
Mm-hmm.
it's like just because something is called a DAO and you can hold tokens and vote on something, it doesn't mean you still realistically. I think the best like form of a DAO would be to actually have some kind of legal entity that's like
Mm-hmm.
there should be a contract of what can be proposed and what can be voted on and who's liable for what. And
Mm-hmm.
without that, I think it's like it's still cool to be able to vote on stuff, but how do you enforce it?
Yeah. Um, that's the thing is that's where we get into the weird in between zone with DAOs, DeFi, and NFTs today, where a lot of times they can be symbolic. Like, for example, a DAO vote is like largely symbolic. Now, not all DAOs are created equal. I have the most experience personally with the Dash DAO, and in that way, it does function in that whoever gets the most votes or whatever on like a budget proposal, if they get the most votes at a certain point, the coins automatically get created and sent. And you can't, like, it is self executing. Like, you can't say, well, the core team doesn't want to abide by these rules. So it's like, nope, the money goes the way it goes. And so, as far as a financial part of a DAO, that works just fine on its own. But as far as when you're talking about you vote to just say, oh, we should do this or that, then that is largely symbolic. And then same thing with like NFTs, for example, like the early at the JPEG NFTs, right? Just like a image associated with some metadata and stuff. And then you start to get you start to do like some token gating and stuff, but it's still a symbolic thing. And then as far as I know, there are some other things that are starting to crop out of the NFT space in particular they're starting to become a little bit more automated. Like, so for example, I know the unlock protocol on Ethereum is doing making smart contract token gates where the actual verifying of an NFT for whatever unlocking purpose is actually a smart contract itself. And that's starting to become a little bit more like kind of actually automated in those cases. And so it'd be pretty interesting to see like a full on DAO where it's like a DAO to run like a website and admin access is by whoever wins the DAO vote. That key can now unlock the thing, but if they don't, then it doesn't work, for example. And just, but to make it so you don't have to trust that anyone listens to like a non-binding vote, you know?
Yeah, that's a tough one. It's funny you said that about the transfers. They actually had the same thing built into the DAOs on WaxDAO, which aren't
Mm-hmm.
really used very much anyway. But that's a topic that always comes up. It's like the one thing that you can really. Well, there's a couple other things. Anything on chain you can actually enforce technically, but aside from that, it's real tough. That website thing's an interesting idea. I know there's ways that you can like kind of store a pointer to an object in like a on the chain, like something with an IPFS hash maybe. It
Mm-hmm.
will be interesting to have some type of way where if the vote goes through, it somehow executes something that causes like a GitHub repo to update and push code. But for managing a website, like you just said,
Mm-hmm.
you could maybe propose like the actual code, and then if it passes, it could like update that GitHub repo. Something like that would be pretty interesting.
Yeah. And of course, a maybe not GitHub itself, because GitHub has been censoring like the Tornado Cash thing. They took that down and stuff. But yeah, I understand like a decentralized version of that.
Yeah, or even if not GitHub, just whatever
Mm-hmm.
IPFS, you could store info right on there.
Yeah. It'll be pretty interesting to see all that stuff. And then of course, like with all the smart contract type stuff, there's always smart contracts replacing, dumb contracts is always tricky because is in a perfect world it's magic, it works great, but in an imperfect world you don't have like legal intent or things like that in there, and then you can have a runaway smart contract where you didn't foresee all the consequences, kind of like with a DAO hack, and then just whoops, there you go, so yeah, that'll be interesting to see. Let me look into these other couple stories, and we can hit on the more depth on the wax stuff thing. So, emerging markets lead global adoption index according to Chainalysis report. Lower middle income countries hold the majority of these positions among the top 20 countries in terms of crypto adoption. So, countries like Vietnam, Philippines, Ukraine, India, Pakistan, Nigeria, Morocco, Nepal, Kenya, and Indonesia, and things like that are holding the top crypto adoption spots, with other places like Thailand, Russia, Argentina, etc. still holding high things. Pretty much only the US and the UK, as far as this article is concerned, are hanging in there with like the developed nations as far as like the top crypto adoption stuff. So basically, bear market has clobbered a lot of adoption and stuff amongst more like rich countries, but the developing world seems to be growing still. Do you have much exposure into that kind of thing? Like, do you see a lot more like wax users, for example, piling on board from different countries, or do you have any kind of visibility on that?
I don't even know if I would say the users themselves. I'm not sure if this is referring to
Mm-hmm.
adoption as far as like the general population. I guess maybe it is. But what I
Yeah.
would say, what I get from this is kind of the same thing that I'm going through right now. If you're
Mm-hmm.
hungry, now's the time to build. You
Yeah.
know, if you're comfortable, if you're one of those countries that's just got a ton of money, it's just like, crypto's gone. But if you're hungry out there, you're like, now's the time. Crypto is not going, crypto is the opportunity of a lifetime. Now's the time to build. So if you're
Yeah.
one of those countries that needs to get your stuff together,
Yeah. Or one of those people that wants to kind of jump deep into this stuff. I mean, I've looked at some transaction metrics. Obviously, Bitcoin and Ethereum fees have gone down because of all that. Wax took a dip, and then it seems to be mostly back up. I think usually around like 25 to 28 million wax transactions a day from, at least that's what Blocktivity tells me. We'll just cut that off wherever we stop chatting, and I'll let you chat a little bit more about WaxDAO. So give the quick elevator pitch for WaxDAO here.
Yeah, I basically build tools for creators on the Wax blockchain. So this would be like an NFT staking platform for your project, or LP farms, or single-sided staking for your token. You can create your own token on WaxDAO. We also got an NFT market, pre-minted packs. This is like a whole bunch of stuff coming out. Pretty much my tagline that I'm putting on the new UI is NFT market and tools for wax.
Well, that's cool. What kind of limits? Have you decided, like the limits of the types of tools you're going to build? I mean, I know the stuff you built so far, but are you going to just do just anything and everything that people want to kind of want, or are you kind of focused on a few areas?
So I started off just wanting to do the NFT farms, which is like, you stake your NFT, you create a farm where people could stake your NFTs of your project and they can earn some token. It's just kind of ever since that and the token creator, it's just kind of been coming naturally. I've just been building on it and building on it. I don't have like, it's not that I don't have a long-term plan. Like I plan to be here for a long time, but I don't have like, I've never been about like a long-term, everything's got to be set in stone. I'm building it out. I'm seeing how it plays out, focusing on what I can focus on. And as new opportunities arise and new gaps need to be filled, I'll definitely be interested in building more. I don't necessarily have any limits in mind. However, if there's one thing I've learned in life with all the bad choices I've made, it's find one thing you're really good at and smash the hell out of it for as long as you can. So
Yeah.
I think if one of these things works out really well, I'm going to be fully focused on that.
Yeah. I mean, this sounds like a good idea. It's kind of like what I could say, like the NFT market in general. First, people went crazy over the idea of NFTs, and then they're just like the big hype wave. But then the things that have had staying power, I mean, you'd have way more visibility on this than I would probably, but it seems like play to earn games are still like really going. And then anything with like utility. And so it's funny because I still see people today trying to do basic artwork style NFTs, and they're not like Beeple or anyone like that. They're just, let's just make some like low effort art, AI art, and then sell an NFT, and then yay, this is gonna work. Or then people, the other thing I see a lot is like people copying the what do they call it, the for
Bored
example,
apes.
the Bored Apes, and then the Crypto Punks, and like everyone has the series, like they like the collectible series idea of little like portraits, like and I'm just not sure that works past a few people who've tried it already. It's so, yeah.
Yeah, I think it worked for the couple of crypto punks and the apes and whoever else has caught on, I guess. But for the most part, I guess it's a cool way to, because I kind of did a generative thing like that for the basis of my project, but it's not at all about the art. They're corny. I don't know how it is at all. The art sucks, but it's not meant to be an art project. There's so much utility because you can use it for everything on the site. There have been, I don't have the homepage pulled up right now, but let me see. There have been 171 of the NFTs burned since we launched like 3 months ago. People are buying them literally to burn them. Like, it's not about the art at all. I think utility is definitely where it's at, although I've probably sold like 500 total in the last like 3 months for like $10 each. So it's rough when when I'm building so much value for the chain and I'm barely able to pay rent if I'm lucky. And I see
Yeah.
people putting in this low effort stuff, making $300,000 in a day for offering absolutely nothing.
Yeah, that's the market is very weird. And one of the things that I thought that was kind of fascinating to me, like when I got into the NFT space in particular, is I saw our good old friend Ken Bozak uh, doing his thing, and I believe he sold. I forget how many NFTs he sold, but he sold so many, and they were all, I think, $10 or less or something like that. They were all like cheap, really cheap NFTs, and he sold a bunch of them and made a bunch of money on them. And they're all sort of in what I would call the useless JPEG category of, just a basic little artwork with a few artists to make a few things, and then and I guess at that price point, you don't have to feel bad about it, about buying one because you like it, or you don't have to feel bad about like, oh, can I flip this for something, for a profit. It just, I like it, buy, and enough people like it, buy, then it kind of goes in there, and it's kind of fascinating for me to see that be like the path he took.
Yeah, it was that Bro Punks thing. I think they did like 4,000 of them. I think they were $20 each, and they sold out in like a few
Mm-hmm.
days. Yeah, it doesn't always go like that. It pretty much never goes like that on Wax, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's tough out there. It's definitely tough, and people talk a lot about. Like, and I'm not trying to be like salty or anything, but people
Yeah, of
talk a lot of
course.
crap about like wanting utility. Utility is king, and then you drop this project that's like literally has the most use case out of like anything that's ever dropped on Wax, and like
Mm-hmm.
nobody wants them because the art's not, or because I don't have like a big name, I guess, or whatever. I'm not worried though.
Yeah.
I'm still building.
Yeah, that's something that I've learned too, because I've been a content creator for a long time and have hung out with a lot of other content creators and have seen how they've done. And a lot of times, people say, I kind of take that personally, in like, not offensively, but I take it personally when, so people say like, oh, you got great stuff, you should have like way more subscribers or something, and I'm like, well, if that's true, that's on me. Like, I haven't figured it out yet. Like, even though the I guess the nutrition is there, the taste might not be, the branding, the marketing, all that stuff, it might not be there yet, and I got to figure those parts out. And so that's always an interesting, you know, um, journey to go on, because, like, so for example, my friend Naomi Brockwell has been doing crypto content for many years, and was a relatively successful crypto YouTuber back in the day, and then since started focusing on privacy, and it's been really thrilling. Like, I remember I was getting more views on like my barely started like TikTok and Instagram than hers. And then, even though her stuff was better, and then she figured out how to do it right, and then went viral on both TikTok and Instagram, and now has like a huge following there because she just found that right recipe of like making it the engaging delivery, the right format, and the consistency. It all just, and then also hitting that one viral video that sort of like gets everything else going. And so it's kind of, I like watching those success recipes, because like most people who are trying, are just this close to something like that just, so, and it's not even like a luck of the draw or keep trying kind of thing. It's also like the try new things, just like a few adjustments until the whole thing like works together.
Yeah, it's a bit of that cliche too about luck is when preparation meets opportunity or whatever. You need a little
Mm-hmm.
bit of magic maybe, but most of it is stuff that you put in the work for.
Yeah.
Um, it's tough out there with like just YouTube and stuff like that too, or any business that you run that you're like
Mm-hmm.
bootstrapping, because you have to wear so many hats, as you know. You got to
Mm-hmm.
become a photo editor and a master marketer and a social media manager and a video editor and know how to
Yeah.
run recording equipment and lighting equipment, and it's all day. It's something new.
Yeah.
SEO.
Yeah, it'd be good enough to be able to. It would be good to be able to monetize all these skills independently, to pay for the expensive hobby that is being an entrepreneur. Sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, where could people find more out about WaxDAO?
WaxDAO.io. DAO is in DAO, like decentralized autonomous organization.
Nice. So, where do people tend to follow you on like social media and other stuff like that? Where do you tend to hang out?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter, Mike D underscore crypto.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not too big on social media. I guess that would be where to find me, and I have a Telegram channel for waxed out slash hood punks.
All right, cool stuff. Well, yeah, well, thanks for being on, and thanks for dealing with all the various like technical difficulties and things like that. This has been quite the last few months as far as like years of uninterrupted, no issues whatsoever. And then the last 6 months or so that has coincided with my moving has all been crazy like problems all the time. And most of them have not been related to actual anything that changed, just like coincidence. But hey, it is what it is.
Yeah, no problem at all, man. I feel for you because now you got to edit this thing.
Yeah, it's just two pieces to put together, and I just gotta put it out, and I just gotta like apologize to all the people who are trying to watch it live. They're like, "Where did you post the stream yet?" I'm like, "Coming," but it is what it is. All right, I'm gonna roll the end graphic and get out of here. Thanks very much for being on, and yeah, everyone, thanks for watching this fun little show, and yeah, we'll see you next week. Back to the regular scheduling, back to actually being live, and everything working out, hopefully. So, bye everyone.